Approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Norbury.
As presented.
Seconder, Councillor Baczynski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes, June 13th, 2022. Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes. Councillor Lehman.
That the June 13th, 2022 PPC minutes be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Baczynski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. On to item 4, presentations and delegations. 4.1, Tumbler Ridge Children's Center Society. Erin Pichurski and Bethan Blackwell with proposal from the TRCCS Board for Council's consideration. Welcome.
Thank you. Is it better this way or does it really matter?
It's not for us, it's for the live stream.
No, I'm the top. Sorry. Perfect, thanks. So my name's Erin and this is Bethan. We have associate board members today.
Yes.
Bethan and Blackwell with us.
Excellent.
As part of our presentation today. So thank you so much for having us. And we welcome the opportunity to follow up with the mayor and the council from our previous meeting. And we look forward to kind of going through this. So we have a PowerPoint that you guys have. Just as an outline, we're going to go through kind of a review of the statistics, a little bit of our current challenges, and then our request for district support. Am I talking at an okay rate? Not going too fast? Okay.
All good.
Perfect. So, high quality childcare settings and preschool education are obviously super hugely important, and they improve children's developmental outcomes. The census results as a review, we have a ton of little guys, kind of about 155 in the ranges of 0 to 4, which seems to be increasing just about daily from the looks of things in town. So this means that the need for preschool and childcare programs is definitely going to be increasing. That is something we have seen with the number of requests coming to our board. Also looking at the stats, the earliest kind of group of retirement is kind of that 50 to 64 age. So that means that the workforce in Tumbler Ridge will be switching in the next few years to the next largest population group, which is kind of that age 20 to 39 range. So these are the ages where families are often growing and so are the needs of that childcare piece. So childcare is needed in order for adults to be working for a lot of us. And for families to be able to participate in the local workforce, which is huge, which promotes our local economy. Having that focus on our community in turn will kind of build that return to the community and increase people's investment as well in the community. Hopefully they'll be spending more of that money in the community and less likely to leave and more invested in the future of Tumbler Ridge as a whole. So childcare is very important.
Absolutely.
It's huge. So basically our primary focus is following up on that staffing challenges piece that we are facing. And we are in a pretty tight spot at the moment. And we do have a little bit of staff shortages, but we do have a fair number of positive updates and opportunities which we would like to share. So since our last presentation or delegation to the council, the following has occurred. We have increase in networking opportunities through our digital platforms for staff recruitment with support from the district. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as well through Canuma resources. So our application to the operating funding program, which is through the province of BC, to increase our fees has been approved. And fees will be increased by 5% effective September 22, which is awesome. Just so that we can help recoup our costs with running the center. The board is also planning to apply for another increase in fees, just to be comparative to other centers in the area. The rates here moving from out of province, I was like, oh my goodness, what is this half the price of daycare of everywhere else in the world? I was like, this is crazy. But as a board, we need to like bump that up, right? So the TRCCS board members have also worked on making connections in the community and with community businesses for funding in order to contribute to furthering the education of our staff, so that they can meet their yearly continuing education requirements for the licensing, and just to support the staff to maintain and increase their qualifications. We want to have qualified staff working at the center. Members of the board have approached large companies in the area who are agreeable to contributing funds that will be used to promote coursework and continuing education as a benefit to our staff, which is amazing, and we want to be ensuring that high quality programming as well as engaged staff. To note, like, we have a lot of our staff are local residents, long-term residents, and they want to stay here, they want to work in Tumbler, and they're willing to spend their time learning and growing with the center, which is really awesome. Our wage grid has been reviewed. As a board, we have agreed that a wage increase for our valued employees is and was necessary in order to maintain and attract new staff. So we're looking at a gradual increase in the staff wages over the next 6 months. Basically, those wages we took from looking at the early childhood educators of BC, in addition to the BC job postings for similar qualifications, scope of work, as well as experience. Basically, it was necessary for us to increase the staff wages so that staff would choose to remain with the center. Otherwise, we're losing them and having to close. So wage increases with our new wage rate increase are from $1.50 an hour to about $5.50 an hour for the staff. We're also looking at adding an admin assistant. This position previously did not exist, and the intent of this position is to alleviate the administrative tasks off the executive director. So that's things that can include the payroll, helping with the grant writing, scheduling, other administrative requirements that allow that executive director to better serve the children and enhance the programming that we offer. Basically, to do more of what that director role is. So we did do a financial review with various scenarios of programming for the TRCCS and how the same is going to impact cash flow into the center. At the present time, we're running a deficit of approximately $20,000 a year. That doesn't include staff education or required classroom materials or kind of like the infrastructure that we need to run our center. So on your next slide, you will see profit and loss for the current year. As you can see, our guaranteed income coming in the past year has been about $81,000. Our current wage projection of expenses in the upcoming year is approximately $163,000. So our initial budget includes payroll and expenses, and with the increase of wages to remain competitive and in line with the BC ECE, so the BC Early Childhood Educators recommendations, the actual budget for payroll expenses is to be about that $163,000 range. So that results in about a $49,000 deficit for the 2022 winter, kind of 2023 spring term. So it is important to note that with this, it is just a projection. It doesn't account for grants, which is where a lot of our funding comes from. But grants obviously are not a guarantee, and we cannot count on this for staff wages or sort of the day-to-day operations of the center. So our big ask, like drum roll or nail biting insert here, I am not sure at this point. So for the year, we are looking at running that just about a $50,000 deficit, which totals about $98,000 over 2 operating years. So our big ask is about $80,000 over the next 2 years to assist with the staff wages, with a remainder to be paid out of the TRCCS savings. So we are looking to kind of increase our staffing. We're looking to hire that full-time qualified early childhood educator. We're currently trying to fill a vacant executive director position, as well as that part-time admin assistant. This money basically is going to be spent on the staffing needs of the TRCCS. Right now, the executive director position is being set at $57,000 to start. Related experience with no ECE certificate ranging to $64,500 pending qualifications and related experiences. So that right now this wage is comparable to ED roles sort of across the province. It's in that range. That being said, that is something that our board also kind of wants to have a look at, but having our hourly staff wages be addressed was our primary concern, because without staff the center can't run, right? That makes sense. So that's going to be reviewed by our board. Also, we have one staff currently in the process of completing her ECE certificate, so then she's going to have another increase in her wage as of December 2022. We also have, happily enough, like we have staff that are interested and willing to pursue their ECE qualification so that they can be qualified to work in the center. And again, these are people that like live in Tumbler Ridge and work here, right? So this would increase the wages of 3 of our staff by about $5 to $7 an hour. So that's over a year, that gets to be a bit more of a bigger ask. Okay. Do you have any questions for us?
Thank you very much for the presentation. Council, any questions? Councillor Kirkhope.
I have a couple.
All right, fire away.
There was a government, and maybe Council Kirby will remember at the LCGLA, and at UBCM, there was a government thing in $5 an hour for employees, as long as they're ECE qualified. Are you guys using that?
Yes.
It's not guaranteed though. It's a government-run program, so it's basically a wage top-up. So we are using that for our qualified staff. However, it's not a guarantee. It's not something that we know for sure is going to stay in place for the next couple of years.
Okay. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Member Tran. One question I have is, you're talking about getting your staff wages up and in line with other communities, but then you mentioned too that the cost to the parent is half of what it is in other communities. I think that needs to come up as well at the same time as the wages, because that's hard for me to wrap my head around, paying out wages when you're not bringing in the proper fee rates.
So with that, we have to apply to the government to increase our fees. And we have done that for this past year, and that is something we're doing for this upcoming year as well, so that we're increasing it to the max that we can on a yearly basis.
Councillor.
And just one more question. In this one handout you gave us, you're just, this budget is on just having the daycare program, the preschool program, that's correct, or the other after-school care or the other programs are not, won't be running?
We are hoping to look at our programming once we know for sure what staff we have coming back in September. The more staff we have, the more programs we can run. However, it really does depend on filling that ED position, making sure that we have the qualifications, the qualified staff to be able to run all of the programs.
One more follow-up.
Sure.
Is your executive director filling a spot on the floor with the kids, or is her role primarily administration, scheduling, etc.?
It would be primarily the administration side. However, if staff are away, if they're doing courses, if they're sick, if they're on vacation, it's really important to us that we do have someone who is qualified with the ECE qualifications so they can cover the floor if necessary. Also for the staff who are taking their ECE qualifications, we need to have a full-time member of staff who is already qualified as an ECE to be able to sign off on their hours. So it's a bit of both.
Thank you.
Councillor Kirkhope.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. What's the rate now? I understand it all depends on families and stuff like that on some of your rates. Give me an average rate for daycare today.
Yep, will do. So our current rate, so preschool right now, 3 days a week is $167. With our 5% increase, that will be going to $175.35. 2 days a week for preschool is coming in at $111. New rate will be $116.55 as of September. Multi-age care for full-time, so that's a 3-year-old, is right now $689 a month. I know, I was like, what? So even with a 5% increase, that's only $723.45. Right? this is why we're looking to increase these things. Part-time is $45 a day. So with an increase, that's still, the max increase is $47.25. Out of school care, do you want me to break down the out of school care?
Sure, please.
Okay. So full-time, so that's morning and afternoon, right now is $406 a month. And that will be going up to $426.30. For morning only is $145 a month. So that will be going up to $152.25. Afternoon only, it has been $295 a month, and that will be going up to $309.75. And then summer care is looking at $689 a month, which will be increasing to $723.45.
Follow up, Councilor.
Yeah, so I guess my question would be, I understand you have to apply to the government to have an increase.
Yep.
Do you set the increase? Did you ask for 5% or is that the government?
That's the maximum we're allowed to increase by
Per year.
every time. Yeah.
And what do you get from the government that dictates their telling you what rate you may charge? What does the government give you guys in the benefit of only being able to charge today 5% more than it was last year? What are they giving you guys to dictate that you're only allowed to increase it 5%? Like, is there certain government grants you're getting that they dictate what rate you're allowed to charge for daycare and after school care?
I think there's probably guidelines of like how much we can increase, but there's probably also guidelines of how much, like a maximum amount that we're allowed to get to. But that's something we would have to look into.
Is that just is that because you guys are under classified as not-for-profit? Is that why? Like, I'm sorry, I look into this because we go to the UBCM and all this stuff, and Council Kirby used to work at the daycare and has that. And,
not work at it,
did you not?
I work
some of
there.
the boards.
Oh, sorry, you're on the board. My apologies, Council Kirby. But we attend all these meetings. We go in there, and we were trying to get grants to help build more spaces, a new place, and we've been turned down time and time again. We meet these people, and they tell us about the $5 wage increases that covers the ECEs, and to me, it doesn't sound like that's going away. So my concern is when the government says to you that you can only go 5% max, but yet you're going to run a $50,000 deficit. Like, to me, our child care here is really, really cheap. Like, obviously I don't have young children anymore in daycare, but the daycare here is very, very, very cheap. So that would be my only concern is what are we getting, or what is your organization getting from the government for them to dictate a 5% increase? And I'm not saying to go and gouge the families in the community to try and gain the $50,000 back. I'm not saying that, but I've heard from other parents in the community that I've approached in the last couple of weeks, and they can't believe how cheap it is. I mean, there's some willing for it to pay double today, right? You talk to a lot of the young families, even some of the new families moving to our community, and like they're willing to pay double. So that tells me, obviously I can see the 5% increase, but obviously that needs to be increased. So,
Oh, for sure.
so I guess my other question would be, and I kind of wrote a note to Council Noberry, community forest funding instead of through the taxpayers. Maybe this is something that we ask Councillor Noberry to take back to community forest to see if this is something the community forest would be into funding, as long as council agrees with that, instead of it coming out of taxation. Would be my only thoughts if it's supported by council.
It's a possibility.
Right, so just throw it out there, council to debate it.
Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So, not to speak for the Children's Center, but I think some of the what is holding them back is that they're receiving subsidy for childcare, right? So, I think that's where you're trying to get your information from, is that, because they receive subsidy from the government to allow cheaper options for people, the government now has their hands in to be able to say you're regulated at this, right? And I think that's maybe something we could talk about the UBCM, because we get to request some FaceTime with ministers. We can address these issues, and maybe that's something we could talk to them about on your behalf. there's something that I know Lynette from the YMCA has spoken with the board about, and I was kind of curious, how would the $10 a day, if we became a $10 a day site, would the government be topping up enough to get the center funded, or would it only be funded at the level you currently have now? So my thought is that you're only going to receive $200 a month from the per child. Would you get topped up $500? Would you get topped up enough so that you're at parity with your finances? Do you have any idea?
I don't have that information.
Yeah.
That would be further discussions with YMCA that we haven't had yet.
Okay, follow up.
And the reason why I mention that is because if we're looking at what this $10 a day daycare will do, yeah, I mean, how much are we going to get per child? Because they subsidize, right? So it would be interesting to know how much that's going to happen, but more information. And thank you for coming in. I know I told you guys come in, at least have the conversation with council to hear what they need, because ultimately, if we can't pay staff, we won't have childcare, right? If you are able to sort of settle things down, you get your funding you need to operate. Do you know what's the potential for bringing back 0 to 3 childcare? Is there any inkling if we can get things settled in, we can relook at that?
I don't think personally it's a program that we don't want to bring back. We absolutely do, because we know that there's a big need for it. With the staff that we currently have, looking at getting them the education that they need, that's how we can bring back the 0 to 3. Also the looking at the space that we have as well, making sure that we're using the space appropriately for the programs and the needs that we have.
Okay. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Would you ladies know if there was years that you didn't apply for the increase? Because that seems like a new thing to me. Because with any business, every year you have rates go up, and it seems, and I'm not for sure, but I think my kids paid more when they went to the daycare here than they're paying now. So I don't understand how the rates got just stayed where they were.
I feel like we did do a small increase a couple of years ago, my first year on the board, but that's something that we'd have to look into to get more information about where we've been with the fees beforehand.
We can follow up with that for sure.
Thank you.
Council, I just have a quick question here on the financials. The second page of them with the forecasted payroll expenses and net income of negative 48,000. The increase to the revenue of the 5% increase that's been approved now hasn't been included in this revenue, so I'm thinking that the 48,000 is going to decrease by 5%.
Well, it also depends on our staffing. So the more qualified staff we have, the more programs we can offer, which brings in more money. So preschool is currently the biggest income that we have. That 3 to 5, 4-year-old preschool party is kind of the biggest number that we have, followed by the 3-year-old preschool, and then kind of that multi-age daycare is kind of coming in third. So we are looking at how do we get the staff on board to fund, like, so that we can offer those programs and then bring back as much income as we possibly can.
Right, but the 5% increase to fees that you were mentioning that's been approved, that would increase the daycare program revenue, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Norby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I mean, just so that it's said, if say we agreed, I'm not saying anything, to support you to a certain level, if you were able to find money outside of council, so say community forest, other grants, we could assume that amount would be returned to the district or wouldn't be used. Like, is that fair to ask? Is that okay?
It's something that we'd have to speak with the board to, but I feel like if we're able to get funding from elsewhere to help cover those staffing costs, then yes, I don't see why it would be an issue to return the money if it hasn't been spent on staffing.
And Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for coming in this evening. Really appreciate all of your comments and your asks. My question is, in a perfect world and you got the funding, how many staff are you looking to get, full-time, part-time, including the executive director, admin assistant, PCs? What is your total ideal amount of staff that you like? And if you do have them all, you're able to fulfill all of the vacant spots and the needs, will the space you currently have be sufficient?
That's a loaded question.
That's a very loaded question.
That's a very loaded question. I like it. Okay, so we would be looking at the full-time ED role. The admin assistant would be part-time. Ideally, we would have 2 full-time ECEs. I would like to see like a few part-time staff for sure.
2 or 3,
2
yeah.
to 3 minimum. And then with that, we'd have to do the number crunching because our physical space also dictates the number of kids that we can have. We need to have X number of toilets per children. We need to have X number of square feet inside as well as outside to accommodate the kids. So we'd really have to just kind of come back to see, okay, what's the maximum number in our current space, and then how can we be creative moving forward with other spaces that are available in town that are also affordable.
Give me 1 minute.
Sure thing.
I'm making a note that that's something we need to follow up on. The square footage of our center.
And that's with the new spaces grant would certainly help us to be able to increase those younger spaces. That was the reasoning behind applying for the grant in the first place, was to have that 0 to 3 age range taken care of. And then with the staff that we're currently training up right now to get up to the ECEs, there is the additional infant and toddler program that they can carry on and do. And I would like to see our current staff having the opportunity to get that qualification, so that we're then able to start offering more programs. But like Erin said, with the space we currently have, it's a bit of a juggle to try and make everything work.
Okay. Councillor Kurkalka?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Councillor Majinski asked part of the question. How many staff are you short today? You guys talk about a staff shortage. I understand the executive position and the part-time position you've created or planning to create.
2 to 3. We're missing 2 to 3.
And it's that fully qualified level that we're missing.
Councillor?
My other question was, I apologize, I wasn't here at your first delegation, and I understand, I've read through the report and watched the videos and stuff. I understand there were some maintenance concerns and stuff like that. Have we seen anything, have you guys seen any rectification of that? Has nobody's come by the community, or to the child center?
Is there somebody you would recommend that we follow up with on that?
I only asked it, we actually, our CAO's in the room, so I imagine it's probably something that'll be, maybe they're already working on it. I was just curious if there'd been any movement, so.
Yeah, it would be Ms. Torval to follow up on, for sure. Okay, any other questions? I just have one last one. I'm curious to know, and I'm not sure if you have the information tonight or not, but how many years has the Children's Center been operating in a deficit? Do you know? The last,
I would have to pull some reports. I don't.
I'm kind of curious on that, if it's
Yeah.
been an ongoing issue. Councillor Kurkalka?
Yeah, I do have one last one, and you kind of hit a bit of it there. I understand the Christmas party you guys were able to throw within the community. With COVID, obviously that affected your fundraising. I'm assuming we're full stream for 2022.
It's on our agenda for tomorrow's meeting.
Excellent. yeah, that's taken a hit out of a lot of our nonprofits over the last couple of years is the fundraising, and it's certainly crunch time for everyone, I think, so it's gonna help a lot, I would say. Any other questions, council? Okay, thank you very much for coming in and presenting, very much appreciated. We will surely be talking soon.
Thank you.
Perfect,
Appreciate your
thanks
time.
for having us.
Before we move on, can I?
Councilor Norbury?
Just before we move on the childcare discussion, I do want to update everybody what's going on with the YMCA. Like we're still in discussions about them potentially coming in. We're working with the Children's Center about the $10 a day site, and so they seem to be excited, and they're going to come see us in September. The YMCA is going to come see us in September, so still hopeful that yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, on to reports. 5.1 UBCM ministry meetings discussion. Move for discussion. Seconder, Councilor Norbury. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So unfortunately, I will not be able to attend UBCM this year. So I think staff is looking for priorities and ministries, correct?
Yes.
Councilor Norbury.
I got a few, and I mean, but to be honest, like these recommendations I'll make, I'm happy to speak to ministers if that's an issue. First up, I'm hoping we could try to get a meeting with the Advanced Skills and Training Ministry, and that is in regarding uptake for early childhood education. Now, in our task force meeting, we talked about something that they're doing with the RN program in nursing, and they're actually paying nurses to go to school. So it'd be nice to see if we could see if there's any parallels available there, or potentially even getting them to talk to universities, colleges to offer like cohort programs or something, right? Like let's try and see if like all the Northern Lights colleges can open up 10 spots or 20 spots. Let's try and get some people going through the program. That's my thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. Other thoughts? Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I like that idea of looking at advanced education skills training, not just in the daycare field, but we have a lot of areas where we're short of workers in town. I know just even with our trail maintenance program, dangerous trees, etc., mechanics, food and beverage, you name it. And so maybe we can hit a little bit of everything there. Also, I think tourism, arts, culture, and sports. Just to highlight some of the things, it's always good to update them on what's happening in the community. The new Geo Center's coming up. It's looking great. It's always nice to touch base with that because throughout the year we usually need something or have a request or grants are being written, and give them a heads up on what's happening in the community because there's still the power to the park. That was mowed and it's looking good. And the first event I think is getting scheduled for the fall fair, so I would add that.
Councilor Norbury?
With tourism, like looking into what their ministry handles, like it's on their page. They offer support for festivals, so
Yeah.
hopefully we can hit them up and say, hey, look, we have this great thing to promote what we do. Pony up.
Councilor Kirkhalka?
Yeah, so I have a feel like that too, but I also think we have to have what our ask is at the end of these conversations. We go there, and I think it's great, don't get me wrong, but we need to have the ask. They're willing to build a fairly expensive museum, or a rebuild. That has gone away now. They've decided not to, so there's some money there in my opinion. So whether we're looking for some funding to help our geopark and our museum, the fall fairgrounds, that kind of stuff, we should have that ask. We're looking for whatever. Let's put a number to it to assist, and it may be a yearly thing when it comes to the museum and the geopark. But I think we should have that out there. What we're asked is back to them. We always ask. Our ask is usually on the tourism side for them to come and visit our community. Well, they haven't been here. So, or for a while they haven't. Shouldn't say they haven't been here because that's not true. So, I just think we need to have it right. What our ask is at the end of the delegation with ministers or the deputy minister or staff. So my thing is, I think Councillor Norbury's hit it, and I think Councillor Kirby's hit it too in regards to advanced education and childcare should be one of them. Health. We should always meet with energy of minds. In my opinion, we should figure out which ones we want to meet with. I mean, there's no guarantees we're going to get these. I'm just curious from staff side if they know when they would hear back on what ministries have accepted our invite.
It's horrible.
Thank you, Council. Well, they haven't. They usually send out a notification for us to say that you can now apply for the ministry meetings, and I haven't received that as of yet. So they get the ministry. We get the invitations to apply to meet with the ministers, and then I think it's pretty close to UBCM time before we get notification as to if they're accepted, because those requests are coming in and they have to kind of set everyone up and coordinate everyone's meetings and such, right? So.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Can I ask council, who's attending UBCM?
It looks like I will.
Two? That's also why I'm asking, because, if we're gonna set this up and all they ask, that's a lot of meetings for two people to hit. So I don't know if we defer this and come up with or make the list and then later on we get the questions organized.
You did mention education and childcare, Councillor Kirkhope.
Yeah, I think we should just add a few, and that's why I asked on what kind of timing we get back or hear back from them, because then we can come up with something. Like, I mean, I'm be honest with you, I mean, I've touched base with Kanuma on the street and stuff like that. But is there a need for something from us to bring up? Do they need some support somewhere that we can have that little ear for the 15 minutes and so on? And it's, Councillor Norbury, you pretty much already have the advanced education and skills training. If that was accepted, the idea of what you're looking for, or maybe what council would support, it's the same thing at education and childcare. I mean, I don't know how many times we've met with them trying to get, more spaces added, whether it's a new building, maybe we need to go after that again. But that's all I'm wondering. Like, instead of having staff working all these details and we're not going to meet with, we pick 8 and we're only meeting with 3, have staff spend that time on those 3 and make sure we have the notes, our asks, the wants from council, the best needs for our community. That's all. That's the only reason I brought the discussion up.
Absolutely. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. So, Councillor Kukalka mentioned health, energy services, and education and childcare. So, starting with health, I thought, do you think it's appropriate that we discuss our particular issues? Because I wrote some down. So, I think if we're getting our asks together, it's we need to talk about issues with retention of nurses in our area, and being cited that it's because of a work-life balance issue, and some of these things we're just gonna have to drop at their doorstep. I think it's nice to have an ask, but there's a buffer of Northern Health between us and them, so we kind of just have to say, hey, this is issues with Northern Health, right? So do you think that's fair?
Councillor.
Yeah, I think that's exactly fair, but we should also be meeting with Northern Health. We give a lot from this community as council and as staff, whether it's the pass, is the free use of our apartments, which, they're willing to pay in other communities, and I'm not looking for that. We've already agreed that was a priority from this council to do stuff with it, but I think we need to have, this is what we've been doing. I'm not sure if you've heard that. We're doing this in our community. I mean, I'll be honest, right now, even on the health task force, we're in a fairly good scenario in regards to our nurses, our lab, our x-ray. A new doctor coming was supposed to be July, now it's been pushed to September. People-wise or bodies-wise over our health center, I think we're doing fairly well, and I think it's on par with what council's done and staff's been doing. We looked at going on diversion until a few emails went around and that diversion was canceled. So, I think this council, by going forward with a councilor's idea and putting it as a priority, we've done really well, and I think they should be aware of what we've done and have an ask, more communication between the health minister and Northern Health and this community. I'm not sure if I think we've asked, this will be the 4th year we've asked to have a meeting with the health minister, and I've yet to receive it. Never have had a chance to meet. I know you went to a delegation that he was part of that, but we've always been turned down by the health minister. And to me, when our community spends quite a bit of money towards nurses and doctors retention and all that, I think it's fair that these guys should meet with us so they understand what our community's done to assist Northern Health, which, you know, again, doing their job for them, to make sure we have doctors and nurses and X-ray and lab. Like, this community's done a ton to make sure we have those positions filled, and staff. Staff time is huge of the amount of stuff that staff's been doing in regards to passes. You know, they send an email, I think passes are landing on my, you know, either here or delivered to my store within, like, I don't know, a day and a half of an email being sent by Northern Health. Like, that's a pretty quick turnaround by staff. So, I mean, they're definitely on it. So that's why I say that. You know, we talk to Northern Health. I mean, I have Northern Health in our task force, and it's, you know, I think it's time to hit the minister up and find out really what the whole story is behind it. And we only hear from Northern Health side. There was this extra money put into Northern Health, you know, creates more positions and all that. We really haven't seen that. We actually asked for a position to be created here because more work-life balance for the ones that are working here.
Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. As far as health goes, I think attraction and retention is a big part, but I find an overwhelming concern that I get from people in town, and not only here, I think it's all over, is the loss of faith or confidence in our medical system. And I think that's a big problem that needs to be addressed, because people are not happy with the service that they're getting. So there's more and more going out of town, and there's a reason for that, and we need to look at that. And I think it kind of gets overlooked because everybody focuses on attraction and retention, but if people don't want to use the services that are here, then that's a problem also, and that's something that we need to look at, or that they need to look at.
Absolutely. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. And you know, Councillor Lehman, you make a comment. Didn't we ask, and I think, didn't you ask Mayor Bertrand for an audit of Northern Health?
The Resource Municipalities Coalition asked for a functional review.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I think my next issue with Northern Health is parity with Shetland, right? Like, they have like 20 nurses, and we're fighting for 4, right? Like, if you look on if you look on our census, we're neck and neck with Chetwynd. Yeah, we're not on the main path, but still, how does that make sense? We have four times less service level of Chetwynd, and we have comparable populations. Just something for them to look at when they're doing a review of Northern Health, right? Like,
Yeah, Chetwynd's population also includes the catchment area though too, which also doubles it with all their rural residents. So the census numbers are the people in town, but their catchment area with all the rural area is double the population. So that's the reason for that increase in service. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Credentials, or allowing people from other countries or other provinces to work in British Columbia. Is that still an issue? Because that should be addressed, and I mean, and federally for sure, but provincially, it's time to step up and say, we have a lack of doctors and nurses. When are we going to open it up? Because I know we've had people here that are nurses but cannot practice here. So I think that could be addressed as well, because that's the stem.
Yeah, absolutely. They are moving in that direction. There has been a lot of talk about that in the news lately, the last few weeks here, and the federal government is starting to prioritize that. So they certainly are seeing that as an area that could fill seats. Councillor Norbury?
so with that, actually, Councillor Kirby, I was speaking with Mayor Bumstead, and just last week they had like a call out for anybody who had nursing credentials in Dawson Creek. There were 29 people who were out of country, had credentials out of country, that were in Dawson Creek. So they're working on that. So maybe that's a conversation with Mayor Bumstead to see how they're handling that and who we can talk to. Yeah.
Councillor?
Thank you. On that, is if communities get together and you've got someone like Mayor Bumstead and ourselves and Chetwynd and whoever go in as a group and make that a top priority to get on it, sometimes you get a little more leverage that way.
Absolutely. Any other ministries? Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. What about, maybe Councillor Norbury was going to bring this up, but forestry and stumpage, and then also just the the lawsuits that are holding back getting into new areas and what, talking how that's affecting everyone and what the timelines are and what, if there's any other alternate ways to go about, dealing with some of these issues, because it's, we have our own district projects that are on hold, but there's other things in the works out there that's been held up too, so.
Yeah, Councillor Norbury, did you want to comment on the Ministry of Force stumpage?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be a good idea if we contact Duncan, maybe give us a brief and we can take it to them. But yeah, my thoughts was, well, from our side, it's the expansion of our management plan. What's stopping it? Well, I know what's kind of stopping it, but it's just lack of people, right? It's like going back to the 80s is what I was told. Yeah, it's a good idea. And I think also wildfire management plan, what's going on with that? Because we got that letter sent to our residents like 2 years ago that was from the perspective of our forest manager was haphazardly created, and maybe a little more work can be put into that and targeted and stuff like that. So yeah, stumpage rates. Maybe that's something I can throw at Duncan and he can try and help us out with that.
Yeah, see where we're at. I know there was some delays on West Moberly's end, I believe, but that's the last communication I'd heard. The wildfire management plan you referenced, that was the one for the ridge that they were going to brush, never clean up the dead fall. Yeah, that would be certainly a good idea to revisit.
And just to give some background, and like this is what I was told. I didn't meet with the guy, but it was just it seemed like it was somebody whose directive it was from Victoria to come up with a plan for Victoria. Came up here, chatted with a couple of people, and was out within 2 days. So it, didn't really. He just sort of like used mostly maps versus actually getting down there and figuring out what's on the ridge. It was like, okay, here's a map, here's the issue, move on. Versus like, oh, we have plans for that ridge. Like, what's going on up there? So yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay, Councillor Majinski.
Just to follow up on that, Mayor, with TRMA, we have reached out as well in regards to this, and that function, they actually don't have funding available to actually enact on the work, so they're still waiting on the funding to make available. But they do have people in Dawson Creek actually working on this. That's their directive, is to have it mapped out, and we do have mapping available of it, the areas and where key areas are, and they are willing to work with the Mountain Bike Association on that bridge. So I could maybe even do a little bit more follow-up if we don't need to get the ministry on that one, maybe, I don't know. It might, I think there's more important things than the wildfire mitigation, if that's going to take up a bit of time, especially if we only have 2 councils going. I'd love to be down there, but I don't know if we'll be able to.
I definitely think stumpage is a high priority as far as that goes and what that decision brings. But yeah, if you were saying that it's on hold and they're certainly working collaboratively with the TRNBA, then that may not be so much of an issue.
Because it might be more beneficial if you only have 15 minutes to maybe get some real key points down with the stumpage, and I think that's a bigger impact on our community. Even like with the blowdown that we did have at the cleaning up some of the dead falling if they're still looking for that kind of lumber.
Right. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering if it's worthwhile talking to somebody about our connectivity issues, because that was one of the things we had talked about for quite a while now, and it seems to kind of get put on the back burner for a while, then it pops up again, but we don't seem to be really getting anywhere. I don't know we talk to these ministers, well, supposedly every year, but it hasn't happened, you get all these lip service, but nothing ever happens. But if you don't ask, nobody's going to give you anything. So I think it's worth a shot at least, and maybe bring it up and talk to them.
Yeah, so I think that would be
Citizen services.
Citizen Services, I believe. Connectivity. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. And on that, I agree. I think we should be talking about internet, but like I think if we're bringing an ask to the ministry, renaming what high speed is, right? Like they say that we're serviced, we're not serviced. You know, I think we should also be asking to allow municipalities on our own behalf apply for funding, not just through the telecoms. So like with the issue with only TELUS can ask for money. Only whatever the other people, Canadian Fiber Optic, only they can apply for the funding. So it would be beneficial if we could, so then we have the money that we can dole out, and then we can be in charge of the project versus leaving. You know, I don't want to disparage TELUS, but the same, like, if we see a job can cost us $4 million, well, let us go for the money, not get TELUS to go for 5.9, right? So with that, like, changing the terminology for what high speed is and giving us a little more control over it, right? Like,
Absolutely. That's a huge barrier, I think, for municipalities to get into improving connectivity in their communities. Councillor Kirkcalkin.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I think we should add transportation and infrastructure on there as well. I know we had the meeting there, delegation by the local contractor, but brush clearing is a concern of mine. And then that geo study you've always been talking about. When I talk about brush clearing, I'm not just talking about how the year, I don't know if it was 4 years ago or whatever, when they did all the small trees along the sides. But what I don't understand is, it's kind of weird because I just traveled. It's the first time I've gone to the community in about 3 months. But yet Alberta's, like, they're all cut beside the highway. Ours, like, I mean, honestly, in a small vehicle, some of the shrubs are past your roof of your vehicle. Like, you know, I mean, I watched late on the way home almost take a moose up because she couldn't see it. We were sitting right beside the ditch and she was in a small little car and couldn't see it. Absolutely. So I understand they probably only have to cut our highways once a year along the side, but maybe we can ask for that to be looked at. But also the brush clearing that we've asked for or happened previous, you know, probably reach out to the contractor first, make sure they're okay with that being brought up in the ministry. But I think that should be something they put some funds into.
Absolutely.
That made a huge difference within our highways. Councilor Kirby and I were chatting on the weekend there, and you know, now we're starting to get people up from out of country, so US or something, I believe she'd said. You know, so if they're coming up on buses and stuff like that, I think they need to have that time to be able to see if it's the moose is coming or the bears or whatever, to be able to stop, especially if it's buses and stuff. And then in regards to highway, that geo study we talk about in the whip reviews, not sure what everybody else calls it, but that's what I call it. But I see there's grading on the highway now along where the beaver dams are, and I think that's going to get worse. We've seen what happened on the Alaskan highway when the beaver dam blew out. Mm-hmm. And the thing is the one beside the highway is only the first part of it. If you actually go over by helicopter, there's multiple beaver dams behind that ever lets go, that highway's coming out. So, you know, they need to be aware. We've already lost our internet because of a beaver. There could be other concerns there. I don't think they're paying attention to that closely enough.
Yeah,
and I understand maybe they believe or leave it up to the contractor. Maybe we should be reaching out to them again. But I see they built quite the big house again. I haven't been in the community, so maybe you guys have all seen it. But it's the first time I've seen how big the house is beside the highway now. Like, that's quite big. So and they built another dam up lower or further down towards Dawson on that same stretch. But there's bigger beaver dams in behind there, and you know we've seen what happened to the Alaskan highway. So
absolutely. Councilor Norbert.
And on that same point, the turn off to Dawson Creek, the incoming side of the road there, it's definitely sagging quite a bit. Maybe we can ask them, like, hey, is this on your radar? Can we get a timeline? Give us something so we can know when this is going to get fixed, because it's almost as bad as when the roller coasters were when it was taking people's mufflers out, right? Like,
yeah, as far as I understand, that part at the beginning of Highway 52 North is supposed to be grinded this year and repaired this year, but I don't have a timeline on it. But that is one of their priorities is that one. But overall, the entire highway is an absolute mess, in my opinion. There's potholes in pavements, let alone all of the patches that they did last year is cracked already again. So. The brush clearing you mentioned, Councillor Kirkcalkin, is extremely important, I think, given all the conservation efforts to increase the wildlife population in our area. Traveling our highway at dusk is a safety concern now because we cannot see the animals. So the increase of animals has definitely brought that need of further brush clearing right to the tree line. So that's definitely a priority on my books. tourism, arts, and culture, Councillor Kirby, I think, you know, we really need to start pushing for sustainability with the provincial government, and, you know, with our museum, they haven't been involved in its existence, so, you know, we are really trying to find sustainability, and they will create a huge part of that, so hopefully we can gain some support there. Any other comments, questions, ministries? Councillor Norbury?
We talked about energy and mines. I think first off, Councillor Kalko is correct, and we asked Kanuma if they need our support in advocating for their development permit. I guess this question might be to the staff. Are they in charge of natural gas in our area? So can we hit them with VCUC issues?
Yes.
Because I think that's, okay, thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think that's something we can talk to them about. The PNG monopoly, like, geez Louise, we gotta come up with something, right? Allow for expansion of private industry to break up this monopoly so that we can have a competitive environment, you know? And those two issues that I brought up about contacting other operators as well as just allowing it to open up, like, let's see if we can get some relief here. Because it's nice that PNG can get 20% profits going, but we're the ones paying for it. We need to have an option here.
Absolutely. That's a good point. That would be a good discussion point with energy and mines. I think we have a pretty good list there.
Got some more.
Councillor Norbury.
Sorry, guys, I got some more. I'd like to see if we can meet with the Mental Health and Addictions Ministry, specifically about issues, how we don't have a dedicated mental health and addictions worker in our community. We have some, like, currently it's just a social worker that kind of does it off the side of their desk, but it's not, I don't think it's enough for our community, and that we do need a dedicated mental health and addictions person. Whether we share that with a local community like Chetwynd or Dawson Creek, that's fine, but virtual mental health meetings isn't enough, right? So even if they can give us a part-time, a 0.25, something, anything, it'd be great. So that's something I'd like us to talk about. Quick 5 minutes.
Do you have another?
Yeah, education and childcare. They are the ones who are the childcare is now. Education is now under childcare is now under education. Excuse me, and we. I know what we're talking about at our local level with SD 59. I would like to talk to the ministry. Okay, so you're taking this over. What is your plan for, 0 to 3? What is your plan for after school care? What is your plan for offering childcare? Because even our local people at SD 59, they don't really know either, because they're just sort of winging it. Like, can you give us, tell us what your plan is?
Strategy.
Thank you. Yeah. And then bring up our issues with 0 to 3. Like, even if the center gets what they need to open, we're still out for 0 to 3. How can they help us, right? YMCA, that's my hope, but at the same time, if it's now under the ministry, what are you doing for us? Sorry, it's your job now. By the way, we have a need.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be interesting to find out or get some feedback on why we've been denied twice as well for the increased spaces grant. Councillor Majinski.
Maybe to ask them if we can maybe have a more, or match our rates that we charge at child care center to be within the same standards as within the region here. And instead of just doing that 5% upgrade, we can maybe be closer to Dawson or Chetwynd, or Hudson's Hope or whatever, right? So instead of them struggling to only do 5% increases and try to catch up, because I truly believe they're minimum 5 years behind where they should be. And same with their wages. So maybe we can ask about that and see if we can get bumped up quite a bit more than just the 5%.
Yeah,
I'm okay with paying a low rate for childcare, but we're actually, it's hindering us quite a bit because we don't even have an under 3 program, because they don't have enough wages and they don't have enough staff and can't pay them and they're not retaining them. So it's actually backfired quite a bit. It's a domino effect. So.
okay. Councillor Kurkowski.
Yeah, I'd mark that down too, Councillor Jasinski. I think we also asked in regards to the $5 ECE payment the government's doing. We need to see what long term that looks like. So to me, a board's aware. To me, they're not sure what permit that is. Is it another 2 years left on that? Is it ongoing? Is it going to be a 5 year or 10 years? to me, then they can budget for that. They know they're gonna be getting that $5 an hour for the EC that's qualified. They can add that into their budget. They know it's a 10-year program or whatever the program's gonna be. You know, I Googled it while their delegation was going on and there's no timeline on it. So that's another thing that should be added and talked about. But I know going to all these, you know, the UBCMs, the NCLGAs, that's all they talk about, the $5, but they don't say how long. You know, I was unaware. I thought maybe they would know the length of it, and then hearing that they don't even know the longevity of it, it's kind of concerning.
Any other comments, questions? Councilor Norwood?
Do we know who handles seniors? Like what ministry they're under? I tried looking. I mean, I only spent 15-20 minutes trying to figure out what ministry they're under, and I could not find it. Staff? Is it staff maybe?
Ms. Torval?
Citizen services. Did you look at that one? I'm just guessing.
I don't know, children and family development?
It's a tough one. We have to do a little more research on it because
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to somebody who deals with seniors about how we get started on an assisted living center or what that could look like. Because what the Building Healthy Communities Committee, we're talking like that could be a bit, well, that is a need and it could be a growing need in our community. And we could use some direction on how, where to go, where to start, you know. Sometimes the wheel's already there and we can just plug into an existing system.
Sorry, social development and poverty reduction, maybe?
Could be.
And we finished it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's get started.
Okay. Councilor Kirkhope?
I believe council was all supplied with the report that was done in regards to that. That was done through the health community or healthy task force, health task force. We actually paid for somebody to do it. Staff has it. It tells us steps and everything else. It's the, you know, private the investor, unless we're trying to see if the government will come in and fund one. It's about finding the investor to come in that sees the fit and the investment payback on it. But it is there. It was council was all given one council. I see Councilor Kermit agrees with me. So it's already there. So like to me, it seems like committees are starting to do two things together. Where you're doing it, we're doing it. But it was actually paid by the district to do it. So it's here. But that's what it came down to. We talk about it quite a bit at the health task force. So it doesn't mean we can't meet with somebody and see if they have something there. But again, does the district want to have staff look at building one? Are we looking to try and get it out, that information out to the investor to say, hey, listen, you know, we have an aging population that, you know, we do have seniors leaving the community now to go to assisted livings and stuff like that. So for the retirement, maybe it's time to start sending some of this stuff out to put it on our website as an investing option. I don't know. But maybe that's a discussion council should have. It is available to report. Doesn't mean we don't meet with them, Councilor Norbert. I'm just saying. And I think gotta be aware there's two councilors going at this point. I guess we don't know how many are willing to let us have a meeting with them, but again, I mean, you have other stuff to attend to, so I think we got to take our priorities here and not meet with every minister available. But
Yeah, we have 9 ministries listed at the moment.
like to me, we need to be strategic on this and make sure we're hitting the right ones. And I mean, ECE and stuff like that's very important. The community daycare, healthcare, stuff like that are roads. But I just think we got to be careful. I mean, that's a long enough time there to do other things. So, you know, I haven't seen. I didn't look up their whole site. But there's obviously some things are already online that I'd like to attend, and ministry meetings you end up bumping out of them, right? So I think to me, council should put priorities and, you know, that we're really begging to meet with the health minister or whoever it may be, you know, and then have staff really push those top 5 and add the other 4 too. I mean, if we meet with them, or if we have a time, then we can split up or whatever. And it's always nice when you go in with whoever's there. We go with, you know, 4 or 5 people. It's nice to show a bit of a delegation. I guess my other question would be back to council, not even staff, but staff might have to get into the conversation a bit. Tourism and arts and cultures and sports, we always take video, but they always can't wait for that. I wonder what council feels like. You know, we're end of July. You know, if we're thinking that that's something we want to do, we should give direction to staff. I know we can't put a budget to it because we're at the P&P. They come forward to the next meeting, but that's something that this council wants to see the delegation take to the UBCM. Having that video again, they always seem to, but we need to have some asks. We always just show it to them. We ask them to come and visit our community so we can show them around, which I think that ask should be there. but we should also be asking for some funding for our museum, our geopark. You know, I mean, we can see what it's already doing. Councilor Kirby, you mentioned it, you know, when we had a quick chat there, but, you know, we need to show them that it's actually got some traction now. So help us out, give us some funds for these guys. You know, they're always scraping by trying to find out how to, you know, have their staff on hand and everything else, and, you know, all the funding gets left up to the taxpayers of the local government and them fundraising or whatever they do. So I'm not saying that they don't do some of their own money looking, but, you know, I also don't think it's right that the taxpayers just keep working it out when, to me, the government, you know, is going to build a museum down south. I know we're up north, but we need to show them that there is an up north. Get some of those funds for the community, especially that museum and the geopark. I think it's very, very important. I think, you know, the geopark could get a certain amount of money for whether, even if we ask for it's a 4-year or 5-year commitment from the government, whatever the number is. I mean, I can just imagine what the geopark could do, or the museum, or other organizations like the daycare, stuff like that, whether it's, you know, the spaces and stuff. So that's all I'd say is I think we need to prioritize what council think is our priorities and make sure we try to get in with them and then add the other ones in. You know, I'm not sure if staff's going to the UBCM. It'd be nice to know. So, okay. So, you know, we do have that extra body. I'm not sure if you're going in person. Yeah, okay. So,
Councilor Norwood.
So to that, like, you know, I've seen the program, looks fine. My focus is ministers. So, I mean, I would, you know, as long as we don't have a schedule conflict, I'm happy to go to every single 9 ministers. Yeah. We'll bring a bunch of suits. We'll be good to go. to help you.
my friend.
Is there currently an updated video, promotional video for the district's Tumbler?
For the district of Tumbler Ridge, I'm not 100% sure. I will ask, do we know if there is a
We've got a number of videos for tourism or a visit Tumbler Ridge, so we can put something together. We've got some really good material from last year. We can create a promo video relatively easily.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Kirkcalkin.
And I just like the question out, and I apologize, I can't answer the question. I'm fine with it. We can just get the information later. But I know we all received the email. We were declined in regards to the building that we put in a grant in for. We had asked at that point if we could get information on why we were turned down. Have staff got that information for us?
Yes, I have that information, yes.
Do you want to pass it forward, or are we okay to talk about it in public?
I think we were we going to, I don't know what happened with that, but we do have information as to why we were declined. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll ask Ms. Finnegan to speak to that.
Thank you. Aline and I had a conversation with one of the facilitators and went through some of the feedback. There were several technicalities in terms of the spacing and the floor plan that was brought up to our attention. We've been given another mentor, I guess, that we can chat to now that the spaces grant is open. We can have more in-depth conversations with them should we wish to put in a game, and they will lead us through some of those technicalities again. So I think that there hasn't been a decision to put in for that funding yet. I may have a draft report in for the September meeting. It was going to be based off the back of the task force, the childcare task force meeting, and what action plan might come out of that, and then request for resolution or endorsement to go again for the funding. So it's in the pipeline. It hasn't been forgotten about.
Excellent. Councilor Kirkcalkin.
Can we have, I'm not sure that it's fair to ask, but I'd like to see that in an email, not your report, but what we missed. I mean, we may not be able to have it all done on, like, we wait till September, then ask for that information. We might not have it for the UBCM, and I think we need to have that. Because, you know, again, in many meetings that we attend, it's so, nobody's applying for this, nobody's applying for it. You guys got to go after, you guys got to go after. We do. And it seems like we're always, whether we're missing something wasn't done right. You know, we need to get the pulse on from these ministers or their deputy ministers or their staff. Maybe we need to have one of them come up. I don't know, but to me, it just seems that we constantly get turned down, and I'm not blaming staff, so don't take that wrong, but I'd just like to see what these bullets are, because then we can bring it up, maybe get more clarity back to staff after the UBCM. You know, if Ms. Dorville's coming and she can be included in that meeting, you know, Councilor Kirby, I can't remember the lady's name, I know her she's a Kirby.
That was Michelle Kirby.
Thank you. Like, you know, we met with her quite often, and that's the thing. She constantly talks about how nobody was putting in for this. And now I have seen a lot of communities getting it. So that's obviously changed from when nobody was putting in, they have all this money, they just want to give it to these communities. But I believe we've been turned down 3 times, my understanding. Twice, and we didn't submit one in soon enough or something. But it's been 3 times we've applied for this, is my understanding. So again, I just, if it's fair for staff to share those points with us before September, just so we have it in case it's not ready to have it ready for the UBCM. I'd like to have it when I go there. Just the bullets and what we were missing and why, and just have that discussion again.
You can have that with the ministry requests,
Yeah, perfect.
ministry meeting notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Excellent. So top 3 priorities, Councilor Kirby.
Right.
Top 3 priorities on the ministries.
I would think advanced education and skills training, forestry, education,
Top 5.
tourism, arts and culture, forestry, and last.
Okay. Councilor Majinski.
Advanced education and skills training, education and childcare, forests, tourism, arts, culture and sport, transportation and infrastructure.
Agreed.
Councilor Lehman.
Advanced education and skills, children's development, health, forestry, and tourism, arts, and culture.
Councilor Norbury.
Top 4, health, education, and childcare, citizen services, advanced education and skills training.
And Councilor Kirkpatrick.
Thank you, Worship. So I have top 5. I have advanced education and skills training, energy, mines, and low carbon innovations, health, tourism, arts, culture, and sport, transportation, and infrastructure.
Staff able to capture those?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The only issue I see with meeting with advanced education and skills training is we're gonna ask for more seats and they're gonna tell us they've opened more seats. They have brought forward initiatives to try and increase the amount of training for ECEs. So for us to go in and ask that we need more support and we need more people being trained, they're gonna come right back to us and tell us that's what we're doing. So I think we need to expand that a little bit more. Councillor Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, I'm not taking it out of council, maybe I should just let you answer. I think we're looking for the same thing. If they're willing to pay for nurses to go to school, are they willing to do ECEs? Like they see there's a shortage, they've just taken it over under the ministry now. Ministry of Education and them are taking this over. So are you willing to pay them? You know, maybe it's a stipend, whatever it may be, but I mean, listen to the delegation. It sounds like some of these individuals are doing it while they're summer break, stuff like that, to upgrade their education into an ECE. So maybe there's a way of getting some support. I mean, these people still have bills to pay. So I mean, I think that's why, and I think that's what our ask is. It's not just more spaces.
Yeah.
Are you willing to mimic the nursing that you're paying for? I think we just need to confirm the nursing thing, what the amount is, or if they're giving a flat rate or whatever, just so we have that information when we go in there, because then when they talk back between the 2 ministries, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is what we do and this is why.
Yep.
Right? Because we all know they don't all talk either, right? They realize someone's getting paid, but they don't know, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry
Councillor
to take that
Norbury.
out of you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I've asked Ms. Miracle to provide that information, because that was her suggestion at our task force meeting. Was they're already doing this for nurses. Why, let's see if they can do it for childcare. And I've asked for the information, so hopefully we can get that in time. But yeah, that's the ask. Pay people to go for it.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you think it might be advantageous to reach out to Dawson Creek and Mayor Bumstead and see if they have this on their list and their asks? If they're going to be trying to get a ministry meeting with advanced education, and see if they would be willing to bring it up as well, because they are the ones that are doing the nursing program in Dawson Creek, and maybe they would be able to offer that there as well as the Satellite Northern Lights College here. So there could be a partnership agreement there. And if they are, and we don't get a seat, maybe they have a seat there, or Fort St. John when they do their skills training. They do that up in Fort St. John, right? So it might be worth talking to Lori Ackerman about that as well. And then they have a voice for us as well. 15 minutes instead of us trying to scramble and have only one topic to see if we can get some EC training.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. I think the ministry needs to be aware of that too, that it has been vacant for quite a few years. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Member Trent. Do you know what the topics are at the PRRD and if we have any similar topics going there? Because they can, I mean, PRRD speaks on behalf of all of us, so maybe, I don't know if you know.
I'm just trying to remember, you narrowed down agriculture. I think citizen services for connectivity. I'm not 100% sure, but I will follow up on that. Councillor Kirby?
Yeah, so if connectivity is under, if the PRD is bringing that up, maybe that's where we can take that one off our plate and they can speak for our area as well.
Yeah,
So that'd be, you know, just something to get information back, so.
Councillor Kirkcalkin?
No disrespect to Councillor Kirby's comments, I don't believe the PRD speaks for the district of Tumbler. They're not elected by our residents. We speak for Tumbler. I mean, can they support Tumbler? That's what PRD is there for, and that's what we're there to do, support them. So, again, no offense there, but I think when we're asking for something, we need to be as a delegation asking for what our wants are in our community. I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't ask. I mean, I understand at this time, Mayor Bertrand won't be making them, but if he was, or if you are, that is your time to me through the PRD to say, oh, I know Tumbler Ridge was in. To me, that's where the PRD is a support, because they're all about the rural and their zones, right? So that's what they're asking, the agriculture, and they're asking for the connectivity to me for their direct areas, which we're part of one of the areas. I understand that, but it's not just for us, right? We're asking for something for us. We want them to open it up, and instead of it just being for telecoms to be able to get grants, we want the district of Tumbler Ridge to be able to apply for that grant. I think that's where the difference is in my eyes. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to get them all, and if we don't, maybe that's when we ask PRD to, you know, voice, this is one of our concerns in regards to connectivity, but to me, I think we wait and see who we all get to meet with. I mean, we have our priorities, doesn't mean we can't add more to them, and, you know, whether we split up or something like that, but I think we just need to have the priorities from this council, what you all think is the priority that we need to go and meet with that minister or their staff for sure.
Councillor Norby?
Follow it up. My only concern is that if like PRD gets the funding and they leave us out in the cold, right? Like, they may find a different need, right? So it's best if we can secure it for ourselves versus the rural district would be my thought.
Okay. Councillor Kirkcalkin?
Yeah, so I don't have a whole bunch about this, and again, just gonna ask staff their thoughts or her opinion. Is there a way of having this sometime before us in August so we can have a gander through it? See if they need to add something, or I understand we might not know, the ministers might not reply back by then, but just so we have the notes and we can make sure we haven't missed something.
Absolutely, I can get you draft. I can get draft notes, ministry meeting notes prepared, and have that done, and I could give them to you. I mean, you don't have to have a meeting for me to give them to you. Just give them to you in advance of whatever, and.
Yeah, it might be a good idea to bring it onto an agenda just to give council an opportunity to discuss again and revisit the discussion topics. I think that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, like just to make sure that the council wants are on there, that we haven't missed something with all the you know, I understand, don't get me wrong, staff does a great job taking the minutes and stuff like that for our meetings, but just to make sure we didn't miss anything and we didn't miss saying something, gives us a chance as a council to say, oh geez, you know, maybe instead of that we should be asking for this. You know, like, I just want to make sure we're going there and doing what's right for council. Right?
Yeah, we can try that for the August PPC. We'll try.
PPC.
No promises, but we'll try really hard.
Locked in.
Pencil, I would say. Pencil.
Yeah, pencils.
Councillor Kirkcalkin?
I guess I understand these are ministry meetings and that's fine, but I know at previous UBCMs, if we can reach out to Northern Health if they have an opening, we would definitely accept that offering. It'd be great to have a meeting with Northern Health there. And the reason I say that, one, we learned, you know, we have an ask of the health minister and stuff like that, and the mental health and addictions, but really and truly it's Northern Health that does the funding. You know, they get so much money and things, so it'd be great to hit them up with the same questions and concerns. And there was a delegation The minutes, I don't believe maybe there'll be in the next meeting from our health task force. We had TRCCS, which I believe eventually will come before council, but there were some questions there in regards to some of how they dictate where they go and how they go and whether they spend all their budgets of the money given by Northern Health. But maybe there's more kitty that Northern Health can put into what TRCCS is doing as well. So that gives an opportunity to ask them that. That's what Mr. Casely was still on council. It was my first term when I went. That's what we had a meeting. We had a meeting with them, and that was the ask and stuff like that. And there's some good information in regards to how they fund TRCCS.
Yeah, and we usually get an invite by email by Northern
Yeah.
Health.
Yeah, I'll probably get those.
I don't believe we've received it
Not yet, no,
but,
not yet.
Yeah, that would be a good meeting to try and get as well.
But to me, if we just put it down there, staff already knows to reply back that yes, they would like a meeting. Like I know I can't speak on Councillor Noberry's behalf, but I know myself, I'm going to be down there to meet with them. And I think we should also meet with opposition. If they're available, I think we should be meeting with them. We always seem to. It's just great if they do send out an email to staff to me answer back so we don't miss it.
Yeah. Did council receive the email from Mr. Bernier about Mr. Falcon being in up in this neck of the woods this week? I think there was a dinner or something planned. You both received?
I received one.
I received it, but he's not coming to Tumbler, and I can't get out. So.
No.
Not coming to tell them I'm not going.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
All right. I think we captured everything, so you're good with everything? Councilor Majinski?
Just on the transportation infrastructure, so we have brush clearing and the condition of the road. Is that the only thing? We're not going to talk about 52 South and the unpaved section again, because we bring that up every year and it gets shot down. I remember last time we had this meeting with them, it was quite short in there. We were in and out in under 10 minutes, you know, presentation all, and it was like cut and dry. They didn't really give us any answers, nothing. So I want to know if maybe we should hit them with a few more things there, or if we have some more ideas, maybe public outreach, talk, see what the community has to say, other concerns. Maybe we have statistics on how many animals have been hit. I don't know.
Councilor Kirkcalkin?
Yeah, so I actually had roads 52, 97 all marked. So I mean, yeah, I mean, to me, we have a discussion. I mean, we're going to go there with you guys' wants and wishes. We're always going to add some things on the fly, you know, as long as it's within the realm, right? So roads is one of them. I mean, and definitely, and to me, you know, you bring it up with tourism, right? Same thing. Hey, listen, you know, the previous mayor was trying to do a circle tour, and you know, they keep talking about the unpaved section. You know, what's the plans there? I know the contractor had some thoughts or ideas on what they were going to do out there. Like maybe we need just to help them get some funding to be able to do what they were hoping to do out there. I believe they have. I haven't traveled that road, so I'm not sure if anybody's been down the boundary. But to me, they talked about doing some of it. I'm not sure if anything's been done out there by the contractor, but there was some chat about it.
Stabilization, I believe, was done last year. So basically, rebuilding and stabilizing the gravel base. Councilor Lehman?
I've traveled it the last week twice, and it's
Stable?
truck was like this, then like this. Just you hit potholes and you're gone.
Yeah, in my opinion, I'd rather advocate for Coosa Falls Road upgrades, like grading, before 52 South. I think that horse has been beaten pretty hard. in my opinion. They have, yeah, the yearly maintenance, yeah. But as far as upgrading, they have dumped some gravel, yes, yeah. In some areas, yeah. Councilor Kirkcalkin?
Keith, or sorry, your worship, sorry. What's his name? Are you aware of, is it still mingled in between the two ministries still?
No.
So I know it was separated, but they were still waiting for this paper to be signed, that T to be crossed, and that I to be done.
Yep.
That's all been completed?
It's in the Ministry of Transportation's inventory now,
Okay.
and the road contractor is responsible for it.
Can mark, if staff can mark that down, because there's not, you know, that was the concern before, is they're waiting for the T's to be crossed and the I's to be dotted and the signatures to happen. If that's happened, there's supposed to be funds put there. I mean, that's been a push from previous councils before I ever moved to this community, and even the council before me, so.
Yeah, and recently Argo has done a bunch of work out there. They have dumped some gravel in the middle section of it to try and build up the base again, so definitely appreciate it. But I think, you it is one of our main tourist attractions, so I think it certainly needs to be highlighted and supported. All right. Move on. 5.2 strategic plan. Move for discussion, seconder. Councillor Kirkhalka, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. So I believe this is the work that we started in this year. Is that correct, Ms. Farwell?
Yes, it is, yeah.
So we didn't have the opportunity to meet with staff yet.
That's right.
To integrate. So curious on council's thoughts on these current priorities and advocacies. Councilor Majinski.
Mayor, may as well start from the top. Water. Is there going to be a report coming back to us on the water tower and installation, if it is actually being asked us a couple of times? We've had it verbally said that we needed it done. I want to have it in a written report saying that it has to be done, why it was removed in the first place, why it was replaced, and why 6 years later it has to be replaced.
Ms. Torval.
Yes, thank you, Council. There is currently a tender being worked on for the, to put that insulation back on that water reservoir. And that should be coming up. It was approved in the capital and special projects budget, so that's one of the items that's on the list.
As far as a report that Councilor Majinski was mentioning.
This is the first I've heard of it, so I'm not really sure. I can ask the engineer that's working on it. I'm preparing it needs to be done.
Yeah, that would
I'll
be
just mention it to him.
helpful.
Yep, I'll do that.
Councilor Kirkhalka.
I believe there's a report closed. There's a report with pictures of it and everything else. I mean, the budget's it's obviously in the open if we're doing in our, I'm not going to discuss it, but there was pictures supplied within a report.
Yeah.
It's a staff report, don't think I'm wrong, I'm not saying it was
Majinski.
engineered, but it was a staff report. I'm not sure what you're looking for, but there's a staff report on it, so I'm not sure how much we're allowed to talk about it here, but I'm gonna get myself in
You
there
would
with
be
it.
looking for an engineer report or an engineered opinion. Yeah.
I'll find out.
Right, Councilor Kirkhalka.
Yeah, so my thoughts here, I thought we were supposed to, eventually after this was done, we were gonna meet with staff. Sit down, so to me, this isn't complete, so should we just defer this until staff? I understand there's some aren't here, but we can set up just a council and staff, meeting so that we can integrate it all?
Yeah, that's
Like,
what
I mean,
was-
I don't wanna pick priorities and then staff come up with couple different ideas, like I see what I have, or what council is thrown on the table, but we haven't heard what some of the ideas maybe from staff are.
That's right. And realistically, this is just a revisit. It's been 7 months or 6 months since we've talked about it. So this was just an opportunity to revisit what we have done up to date and change or adjust what we see fit here. So like I said, this was done in January and we're just going in August here now. So Councillor Norberg.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So on the topic of our priorities, it seemed like urban design guidelines and paving and roads, well, sidewalks are kind of like they go hand in hand, right? Like I remember initially I asked we look at our sidewalks, and then it turned into the urban design guidelines, and then from that we'd do our sidewalks. Is it fair that we kind of combine these two into one, or separate? No.
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Council. Those two are separate. The urban design guidelines will be coming for Council's approval on the August 2nd meeting agenda. And the sidewalks that's another RFP that's being developed by the engineers.
Yeah, and the urban design guidelines was more of a overview of
It's the cosmetic part of it.
cosmetic.
Yeah, it's more
Yes.
cosmetic than structural.
Right.
Yeah.
Councillor Kirkhalka.
Thank you, so like you say, you mentioned things about taking things out and moving things around. Well, like I just heard, Councillor Majinski's brought up, or Councillor Majinski's brought up one thing, Councillor Norberg just brought up another. Well, we have another RFP out for this, and we have this, an RFP out for that. So again, should we defer this and wait till stock comes and we can already put on in progress, RFP been progressed. Like, instead of moving stuff around, Then all of a sudden, I mean, no disrespect, staff sniff at the random, oh, we have an RFP out for that, you can't remove it. Right, like, to me, I just, I'm not sure what council thinks, but to me, we need to sit down with, get staff in here and whether it's a morning meeting, afternoon meeting, and whatever date works for council, and I understand the date probably works better, be more staff involved. We should probably proceed with that first, and then at least we have all the information.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll move that council directs staff to organize a staff and council strategic priorities workshop in the near future. Seconder, Councilor Kirby. Discussion. Councilor Pichurski.
Long-term funding with these user groups, are we gonna have a little bit of input from them as well? Because they probably have some ideas there, especially with the new geothermal incentive. Like we supposed to have a shareholders meeting with community forest. Should we not have a meeting with the museum and the geopark as well? Now it's gonna stack up a lot of meetings and a lot of extra time, but I think it's probably very well worth it and see where they are. And be nice to know where they're at in 5-year time frame. Especially where we put our money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's possibly something our liaisons could try to wrangle, possibly. Okay. Ms. Torval?
Right. I'm just going to mention, just to remind council that there is a referendum. It'll be on with the election this year regarding the functions with the regional district for the geopark and the museum. So that'll be part of that, I guess.
Yeah, so just to
So for
remind
funding.
council, the new functions that we're trying to create in regional district, 2 of them being the Tumbler Ridge Global Geopark and Tumbler Ridge Museum. Those have gone to referendum and will be held at this election October 15th to see whether or not the regional district will support a new function for those 2. So separately, not together. But along with those 2 questions, there's also, I want to say 3 or 4 more as well. So altogether, I think there's 6, possibly 7 new functions coming into referendum here on October 15th. So there's certainly concern by the chair and myself that there's too many questions all at once stacked up. Will residents really be able to understand what we're asking? Hopefully we can alleviate those issues. It doesn't sit well in my eyes. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And 5.3 CAO policy. This one was a discussion item that came over the last, say, month and a half or so. Just realizing that we didn't have a specific policy for our CAO and how things are handled for that position. So, I think council has issued some concern about this. Council?
Yeah, this is labor, it should be included. CAO is under labor,
This is a policy, though.
still labor. We're gonna discuss labor issues, and not that, but you're gonna add a policy in regards to labor. It can be brought back into open, but I mean, when you're starting, again, we're gonna start adding stuff to the CAO as a policy, our CAO is sitting right here. To me, it should be close. And then, once the policy thing, it can be a rules and report, but it's a CAO policy, it was an employee.
Okay. I'll move 5.3 to close then, or motion to move 5.3 to close. Secretary, Councilor Pichurski, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, 6.1 adjournment, recommendation please. Councilor Pichurski.
The July 25th, 2022 policy of private committee meeting be adjourned.
Seconder, Councilor Erin, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you.